Hi, so let's have a go at creating our own concrete, polished concrete floor material. So let's, I just wanted to recap a little bit here and see we've got our scene here that I've got on lighting only. I've got the lighting built as we had it last time, and I'll put it on detailed lighting for now. I've got my textures, and I might have done a little bit of rearranging here with the picture frame and the folders here, but I've got my textures material, textures folder, my material folder, and we are going to work on the floor material, so which is currently as simple as it gets. You might have a few different folders in here, but you feel free to reorganize it to go along with me. On detailed lighting, normally we should see some reflection along with the lighting, so what I'm going to do on the floor material here is just press 1 on my keyboard and click, and I've got a nice variable here that I'm going to plug onto roughness, giving it a 0 value, which will make it highly reflective. And here we are. So we've got a floor. Make sure you have in the post-process volume, you've got your screen space reflections on as well. You don't have to have them, but it's maybe good to work with them as we've got them, or you can turn them down maybe to 50. Then we're going to go over to substance, and we'll start outputting our nodes and working with the material. So I've set it up here with a cube and environment color. I thought I should tell you, in case you don't know, you can change your environment maps here, so that's really useful to be able to do that. So let's start by grabbing our texture from texture.com. It's this one, and well, I actually did it prior, so I've grabbed this texture, which was pretty big, 5,000 pixels, and I've made it tileable, so I'll spare you the pain of watching me make it tileable, but here in this instance I use the offset button and then tiled with a stamp tool. So hopefully you know how to do that, or you can just buy a tiled texture like that. So I've saved it on my hard drive, and now in Substance I'm going to import this texture that we've just brought in. So now I've saved it on my hard drive, and I'm going to import it inside of Substance Designer. So I'll just import that tiled concrete. And so here it is at 4K and nice and square. So that's great. I'm gonna just straight away plug it into my base color. So I'll enable base color, normal, and roughness. Actually, roughness I'll leave it like this for now and give it a little grunge amount. Just looking at what we've got here, and roughness value. There you go. Alright, so now I'm going to plug this into the diffuse. So that's increased the brightness quite a lot, and you see that yeah, it's beginning to give us some exciting results already. So here I'm going to go back to my base material, and I'm actually going to turn off the color, because I really want to carry on working on this, on these other aspects that are a little bit unfamiliar to us, the roughness and the normal. And because usually we would just take this image and we would, personally, I would normally sort of send it to a software that would extract the bitmaps, the normals, and the black and white sort of specular or roughness or from this image. But this is actually a proper diffuse map, and so any lighting information has been taken out of it, and so on. So even to extract a bump map, it wouldn't really be suitable anymore. So here we really are able to design our own roughness and normal, and it's really, I go back to this idea of being able to design the history, the story a bit of the material through that. And again, that those visual cues are all visual cues to how it actually feels to the touch. That's how I like to think of it. So I'm even going to turn back down the roughness, and we're going to work on a material. So I'm just going to keep going back and forth between the resolution. So here I'm going to choose a noise pattern, because there's two things I'd like to do. I'd like to break overall the surface so that there's some slight variation a little bit overall. So maybe this kind of black and white spots will give us that. And then I wanted to also, in very small isolations, for there to be little grooves, little bits of concrete that I've kind of dug in, or from the imperfections here and there. So let's do that first with this black and white spots number 1. That's got a bit more contrast. The kind of image that I'm looking for is with a lot of black and some little isolated bright white spots here. So what I've done is dragged a level node from here, and I've just connected that from here to there. And just if you've ever used Photoshop, you'll be very familiar to this, and we can just get our very bright spots here. So now I want to put that into my normal map. So I'll bring that normal node here and just simply plug that in. And you can see just by reading the normal already that it looks like a proper normal map of what I'm looking for. So making sure that's, hopefully that's the normal. And yeah, so that's really given us this, actually now I'm going to bring my roughness back, because we'll work on the roughness a little bit later. So now you see the normal is really properly looks like dug a hole into this surface. Right, so the if I take out the grunge, you'll see that the problem with this map currently is that here there's little bits of imperfection, but the rest is absolutely perfectly flat. So I wanted to kind of bring the idea of maybe a bigger, wider variation over the surface. So for that, I'm going to blend another texture map like this over this, and that will give us that sort of slight variation in the background if you want effect. So let's bring a blend node, again, so very simple, and reorganize a little bit. Right, so you see here there's a very strong grain to the normal, so that's not what we want. So in the blend, so that's what we had before, so we can just bring in a little bit, just a little bit of imperfection kind of overall. Right, maybe what I wanted is something a little bit stronger like this. Well, I'm going to leave it like it is for now, see what happens. As you can see, we can play forever. You know, maybe we can sort of bring a blur node here and blur it a little bit, tiny little bit. But we can really play for ever and ever. So one thing I wonder is if these normals are actually facing the wrong way. I want them to be down. So it looks like they're actually little mounds. So what I'm going to do is click on that link here, press space, and look for invert node. And here I'm going to click invert grayscale. Let's see what happens. Yes, that looks better. And it's inverted my other kind of overall background noise, but I think that's okay. What I might do though is press space again and type HIST, which is a kind of a really nice tool to just do very fine adjustments to the intensity of the effect. Sort of bring down the position. There's two of them, the histogram range and the histogram scan. The range allows me to limit the range and to make this very, very sort of subtle effects, very grey image. Or here I have, when I move it to 1, I have the full scale of the image. So this is really very good to do fine-tunings. So anyway, I could carry on for hours. So I'll move on, and we'll play a little bit with this and we'll start playing with the roughness. Actually, I'm going to take this a little bit further and get to an effect which is not quite what I was looking for here. So let's actually add an histogram scan. We've got the histogram range here already. And let's add the histogram scan, and what that enables us to do is, if we set the position to 0.5, here you'll see that, so when it's at 0, it's going to be completely black, so that's going to, I'll reduce the resolution a bit to go a bit quicker. So it goes completely black, and then at 0.5 it goes to our original image, and then at the top it blows it out completely. So at the same time we can play with the contrast and start making some holes in this image. So I wanted to, even if I change the position down, instead of being uniform, I really wanted to start breaking down this shape. So I did get some interesting results earlier. There you go. So something like this. So where there's kind of areas that are pretty good, pretty flat, and then some areas that are kind of not gone perfectly or perfectly well, sort of. And so it's very good to have subtle these sort of subtle variations. So remember, we're still working on the normal, so I'm looking at large kind of variations. I'm going to so I think it's something like this I was looking for, and let's pause it now and then move on to the roughness. So for the roughness, actually the first thing we can do is add some grunge amount, which might just well be enough. So not too rough, and add some grunge. So we can sort of see that the shininess is kind of changed in different areas. I haven't got the reference in front of me, which is probably a mistake. It's really good to have a reference really and know exactly what you're looking for, which I'm the first one to miss out on. So that's looking pretty good though. We can always control these values back in Unreal. So let's go with this. I'll spare you sort of looking at me building all these nodes, but you get the idea. We can sort of always create these kind of grunge maps either here in Designer, or you can get them from image libraries or in Photoshop. They're really good fun to, there's absolutely no rules to break. They're really good fun to play with. Talking about the roughness maps, of course, and yeah, also the normal. So I'll pause now, and then we'll go back into Unreal and import these images. Here we are back in our bare sort of project. We've got the textures folder here. So I'm going to import, and I'm actually going to import the ones I did prior because I spent quite a bit of time on them. So we might as well use the nicer looking ones, but you feel free to use whichever ones you want. So while that's importing, I'm going to show you what we are going to try and get to. So this floor is now a instance material that I'm able to tweak in Unreal. So this is another instance of the finished project that I worked on before. And you see, so here there's a nice variation with the roughness, and there's the nice sort of little indents with the normal, and we've got our little grooves here, and with a little bit of darker material, darker color at the bottom of the little holes. And the way the material sort of works here is that we can change, well, everything in terms of the color. So the idea is that, well, actually here this is set to 1, so it's giving us the possibility to alternate between the color and the texture, diffuse albedo, a little bit like reminiscent of how we can do that in 3ds Max. So we've kind of got, you've got your color slider in 3ds Max and the sort of amount of how much texture you've got. So 1 is full texture and 0 is just purely that color. So here it's a ways to isolate, take away the color and just work on the diffuse and so on. On the roughness and normal. Here is just a slider to multiply the color to with the diffuse added onto it, and then specular. So we're going to build all of these, and we've got the UV multiplier, so we can change the UV multiplier, and then we've got control over the amount of normal. So here we can sort of really control that, so that's really useful. And then of course our roughness, so we can make our flow completely shiny and a little bit less. So plenty to do. I'll end this video here and we'll continue in the next one.